guys, today we have a very cool interview. Canada's sweetheart, Olympic free skate champion, Elizabeth Manley. Let's go!
How are you?
I'm doing very well, and you?
I'm great. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Are you back to
That's-
school?
I'm actually going back to school tomorrow, and I'm very excited for that. I first want to congratulate you on your amazing career that you had, and I want to thank you for taking the time to, sit down and for
No
my
problem. No problem. I guess it was your dad that emailed me. He said, we forgot it was Labor Day. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, I forgot it was Labor Day too. We would have had school today, but we didn't because of the Labor Day. So.
Yay.
All right, so
Okay.
do a couple questions, and then at the end we're gonna do a couple rapid fire questions. Are you okay with that?
Ooh, okay.
All
Okay.
right. Awesome. So take me back to 1988. At the time, you were one of the top female skaters in the world, and you are now competing in the Olympics in your home country. Was there added pressure on you to medal, especially while competing against the likes of Debbie Thomas and Katarina Witt?
Right. You know what? It's an interesting question that you asked me because all the media and all the pressure was on those two girls. And I really didn't have a lot of pressure on me because I was an underdog. I wasn't expected to win a medal, let alone do what I did and beat the two girls on the last night. But, I had pressure, but I think it was only pressure to myself because I had a rough career. As a teen, I went through depression. I quit skating. I came back with a whole new outlook on the sport. And that was just to compete for me and do the best that I could do and bring the love back into what I was doing. It kind of got to a point where it was starting to feel like a job. And I think that's why I kind of fell apart because I was taking on all that pressure, right? 16 years old. And I had a whole country on my shoulders. So, I kind of had a bit of a breakdown and quit skating. And then I came back with a whole new outlook on the sport. And that was just to grasp and remember that I was skating because I loved it, that it wasn't a job. And when I did that, that's when the medal happened. So I was pretty excited.
Your skate was amazing, by the way.
Thank you. Except for the bad blue eyeshadow. Why my mother put that on me, I have no idea.
Skaters are much like gymnasts. Your prime is usually at a fairly young age. Mm-hmm. How do you think it impacts a young person, and how normal is your childhood compared to most kids?
Well, I definitely didn't have a normal childhood. I'll tell you that. Speaking of school, you're going back to school soon, and I was one of those people in school that you kind of saw me only in class, but you didn't see me anywhere else. So I missed out on a lot of fun things about school, like dances and having a lot of friends and, just socializing more at school because I would skate before school. I would do a few hours of school. My coach would pick me up. I'd skate all afternoon. They worked out a deal where I could train in the afternoons. And then I would skate again in the evenings. So my whole life was either in class or at the rink. And, it sounds terrible, but I didn't know anything differently. Like I knew what I was doing and I was committed. Are you a hockey player by chance?
I have a tryout after this, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Steve Eiserman was the same age as me, and we were training partners in the gym. So that was pretty exciting for me. And so I had some pretty intense athletes at the same age. We were all working out together. So we all had like these goals, right? And so I didn't know anything differently. I just loved what I was doing.
Just doing it for the love of the sport.
Absolutely.
You've said that your performance in the long program at the Olympics in '88 was one of your best performances. With everything going on in your world at the time and battling the nasty flu bug, how did you manage to put all of that behind you and skate the performance of a lifetime?
I can actually tell you a little secret. My coach used to make me train when I was sick, if you can believe that. So his theory was anything from, your chest up, like, so if you were stuffed up or ears or whatever, you were okay to skate. Anything from chest down. So, if you're in the bathroom a lot, then I would have the time off. But I think learning how to train when I wasn't feeling well, like pushing me through those times, it ended up happening for me at the Olympics. I was so sick, I had a high fever, I had pneumonia, I had a blown eardrum, you name it, I had it. And I think the experience of learning how to still train and get out there when I wasn't feeling well came in to help me when it mattered the most, because I knew how to do it, right? It wasn't easy, I'll tell you that. There was about 24 hours before that final event that everybody remembers. They were considering pulling me out of the Olympics because I was so sick. And I think it was just something inside me that said, I just want to go out there. I don't want to just quit halfway through the Olympics. I need to finish it and do it for me. And probably one of the, as I said, the best skates of my life came out at the right time.
And look at that, you got a medal.
I know. And speaking of that, hold on. Okay, keep going.
The story about the men's Olympic team is such a great story. Can you recount that for us?
The men's Olympic team. You mean the Bryans?
No, when they went to your practice and they sat down and the whole team sat down and watched you.
That actually was probably the main reason why I didn't pull out of the Olympics. So I was really, really sick, and I had a day off between my short program and my free program, and they wanted to pull me out, and I asked them for the day off. I said, just give me my day off and let's see, in 24 hours if I can feel a little bit better. And when I got on the practice, my coach said, we're not going to jump, we're not going to spin. He said, all I want you to do is skate around the ice and try to sweat out the fever. So I was doing laps, and in the middle of the practice, the entire Olympic hockey team walked in to my practice. And when I say they walked in and they sat on a player's bench. And the coach was standing behind them like this. Nobody was talking to each other. And I remember saying to my coach, why are they here? Like, why are they at my practice? Hockey players don't go to figure skating practices. It's just not a thing to do, right? And I remember my coach saying, I don't know why, but we got to focus because we have to make a decision after this practice if you feel like you can compete tomorrow. And as I got off the ice, the whole hockey team got up and they started walking out. And as I came out the back gates of the rink, I saw the hockey team going out the back door of the stadium, and they were getting into a bus. And as I came around the corner, the only person in the corridor walking towards me was the coach, and I didn't know him at all. I didn't know who he was. I just knew he'd been standing there with the team. So I went up to him and I introduced myself to him. And I said, hi, I'm Elizabeth Manley. And he starts to laugh and he says, I know who you are. And I said, thank you so much for coming out to support me on my practice. I said, but I got to ask you, why were you here, right? Because it's very odd that they were there. And he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he says, the team's waiting for me on the bus. I've got to run. He said, I've only got a second, but he said, we were practicing next door and we play Russia tonight. And he said the team just wasn't working well together. And so he said, I felt the best thing I could do for the hockey team going into the big game tonight was to have them come watch a champion. And I literally turned around to see if Katarina Witt or Debbie Thomas or somebody was standing behind me. And I looked at him and I said, what? Like this? And he says, I needed them to be inspired by a real champion. And thank you. And good luck tomorrow. And he walked away. And I was in such shock because this was somebody, and that's why, what I do today as a life coach, but why it's so important what we say to people, because those words came, for me, it was a perfect stranger. And the impact it had on me in that moment that he called me a champion and made me feel like I was really worth something, that was when the decision was made. And I remember I was bent over and I was in shock. I was thinking about what he said, and all of a sudden a garbage pail came flying underneath me, and I looked up and it was my coach, and he thought I was sick in the hallway. So he had the garbage can, and he said, I had this look that he's never seen. And that was a look of determination. And I looked at him and I said, call the meeting off. I said, I'm going to compete tomorrow. And I remember he said to me, what just happened? And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll tell you one day, but no matter what, I'm competing tomorrow. And then there's the medal. So that's the medal that I ended up winning. And I won the free skate the next day. So I'm actually called the Olympic free skate champion. But when you combine all three events, I was only 0.1 away from winning the gold.
Really?
Yeah, 1/10 of a mark I lost the gold by. But you know what? For everything that my career was, and for everything that I stood for, and coming back from depression and, you know, a lot of issues that I had, for me, I won. And, you know, my family considers this a gold medal in life. So,
wow, that's amazing. So you and Brian Orser both claimed silver medals in Calgary. Were you both able to provide support and encouragement to each other, or is it difficult, like in an individual sport like figure skating?
It was because, excuse me, when Brian won the silver, it was kind of a disappointment to the country because he was expected to win gold. And I remember talking to him and he was so upset. Like he won a medal at Olympics, but his whole, you know, training and everything going into it was to win gold. And he was put in that position to win gold, very similar to Katarina Witt and Debbie Thomas. Those were the rivals, and the two Brians, Brian Boitano and Brian Orser, were the two rivals. And when he didn't win gold, it was almost a heartbreak for him, where it was the complete opposite for me, because I wasn't supposed to win a medal. And then I came out like a bull in a china shop and I ended up winning this medal. And I think being the very last event of those games, of the Calgary Olympics, for me to get that medal, it just, the whole country celebrated. There was only 4 medals for Canada in Calgary.
Was there really?
4 medals. 3 of them were figure skating and 1 was Karen Percy, the skier. That's all we won in Calgary. And 3 of them came from figure skating. The dance team, Brian Orser and myself. So, you know, you can imagine there was a lot of athletes from Canada that went into that Olympics that people were really, you know, behind and hoping to win. And they faltered and didn't win medals. And then I was the very last event of the games. So you can imagine when I came out and did what I did, the whole country was just, you know,
Crazy.
Up on their feet. It was amazing. It was the best moment of my life.
You've brought awareness to mental health in sport. Just this weekend, I saw Naomi Osaka
Yeah.
struggle, and we all watched Simone Biles with her struggles in Tokyo.
Yes.
What do you say to her critics who feel that she should have competed?
You know what? First of all, I'm extremely proud of those 2 girls, because it has been kind of not a situation in sport that I think has gotten enough attention. I was the pioneer that came out first. I was the one that wrote a book. I was open about it. And I remember even my father, you know, saying to me, why would you want to tell the world you had depression? Like what's in it for you? And I remember saying to him, because it was something I went through, people don't understand how tough it is for an athlete. And if I can help one person, that's all that matters to me, right? And so when I saw, you know, for instance, Naomi, when she pulled out, you know what? I feel that they're setting a platform that we need to understand with these athletes, the pressures they're feeling and, everything. For her, it was a matter of just trying to not, be in touch with media. And the mental part of it, she knew she wasn't going to succeed. And she had to think of herself first. And that's what I love about both her and Simone is they've put themselves first. They've made it a point that their mental health is very important. And, I sometimes think that maybe if that had happened for me, but the stigma for mental health was so high in those days, right? People just kind of backed away, didn't want to hear about it. Let alone put Canada's sweetheart on the same sentence as mental health, right? But I'm proud of those girls. I respect what they did. And the more that these athletes stand up for themselves, the more we're going to pay attention to really what's going on behind the scenes and, the stuff. And, if you and I had about 6 hours, I could tell you about the things that I went through, even as a professional skater, because after the Olympics, I turned pro or after the World Championships, and I toured and did professional skating for almost 30 years. And it didn't get any better. It's like, the bullying and the pressure and the media and everything. It can be very disheartening to an athlete. And, 2 weeks before the Calgary Olympics, the paper here in Ottawa wrote an article on me on the front page of the newspaper that said that they took a picture of me and my puppy, my dog I just got. And the headline was "Manley dogged by inconsistency will never win a medal." And they slammed me, because I suffered from depression. That meant I wasn't good enough to win. And I have to tell you, as an athlete, when you read something like that, it sets you back miles, because you feel like the whole world feels that way about you, right? And so, by these athletes starting to stand up and talk about their issues, there's a Montreal Canadiens hockey player that's just come out with his mental health issues. And, it's just setting that, give me that space and allow me to get healthy and support me, right? That's the big thing. We need to support each other. And so I'm slowly seeing it starting to really come to light, which I'm very happy about.
So how can we take something like what happened to Simone in Tokyo and turn it into something positive for mental health in sports?
The way it is positive is the fact that, other athletes at her age or at her level in that are going to start having a little bit more of a voice. When I trained, I was told, take your tears out to the parking lot. We don't want to see it. Just don't talk about how you're feeling because your competitors will feed off it, stuff like that. So I kept everything inside. Now that these athletes like Simone, she got there, she knew. And gymnastics is a very dangerous sport. So one, she was very smart because if her head wasn't in it, she could have gotten very, very hurt. And for her to be able to have that strength to say, I can't do this, it's going to open up conversation with a lot of gymnastics, athletes, a lot of sport athletes, to be able to really peg in to work with those athletes if they're having mental health issues. And if, depression or anxiety or stress or whatever it may be. So that's the positive part of it. Obviously, the negative part of it is, she's not going to win, she's not going to be able to go home and be, the Olympic gold medalist. But to take her health over a medal will allow athletes to feel safer to open up.
Can you tell us what it is to be a life coach?
So a life coach is, well, first of all the work that I've done for mental health over the last 20, 30 years, I've been a real voice and a real advocate for it. I got to a point where I was trying to figure out, okay, there's only so many speeches I can give. There's only so many appearances I can make. What can I do to make a difference? And I actually went to a life coach. And what a life coach is someone who, looks at your life and understands where you're feeling like you're stuck. And, sometimes how you're feeling, things like that. So a life coach kind of motivates you to get through those rough times. So you can imagine my coaching right now has been plagued with individuals that are having a hard time through this pandemic. They just feel really lost, really, not being able to see family, things like that. So I'm kind of inspiring people and working with them to go after what they really want to do. A lot of people, I've always said this, I don't want people to be, 90 years old, laying in their bed going, I wish I had done that. No regrets, right? Like I want people to have no regrets. If you believe or you have a passion for something, you got to go for it. You can't listen to what other people are saying. So when I made that decision to actually kind of leave the skating world a little bit and pursue, I went back to school and I got all my certification through a California company. And now I'm working with so many clients, but it's kind of, for me, it's giving back and it's working with people and helping them. I've always said I'm a bit of a poster child for mental health. I'm the perfect example of somebody who has completely been rock bottom and has come back and then hit rock bottom again and then it's come back, right? So there's got to be something in me that I can help others, achieve those same dreams and goals. So I'm working right now with the Ottawa Police. So I'm working with a lot of police officers and retired officers. I'm working through the association. So they have me on contract to work with the Ottawa Police. And, and it's been really good for them because you can imagine a police officer deals with so much on the job and then he has to come home and be normal. But what he's seen and what he's gone through in a day can be very traumatic. And a police officer doesn't want to unload that onto his family, let alone his children. So I'm that person that they can kind of talk to and say, how do I deal with this? And how do I stop bringing my job home? Like I have a couple officers who have kids your age and, they're a little bit overly strict because they've seen things, right? So they don't want their kids to go through that. So I'm trying to work with them to, kind of not bring work home with them. And just enjoy life, right?
Right. And if someone, if our listeners wanted to reach out and find out more, how could they contact you?
They can contact me through lifecoachmanley88@gmail.com. So lifecoachmanley88@gmail.com. And I work with everybody. I'm working with athletes. I'm working with hockey players. I'm working with the police. And then I'm working with your average everyday housewife, and even men. So I'm not specific to one thing, like a lot of people would think, well, you must be just working with athletes. And I'm like, no, I'm working with police. I'm working with this, So it's just a good way. We all you'll understand this when you get to our age, but you get to a point where you just don't really feel happy with what you're doing or where you are in life and things like that. So I get it out of them. I work with them to go, yeah, I could do that. I can go for sure, and I motivate them and I make them feel like they're worthy. But through this pandemic, you can imagine a lot of people really feel kind of down in the dumps and, don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So.
Yeah. So, we have rapid fire questions now. Are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Dun, 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 dun.
What is your proudest accomplishment?
You know what? I would say, I think it's becoming a life coach. I think, you would think it was Olympics and everything. But, I'm proud of myself that I've been able to, at my age, move into a new career and feel good about it. Because I think an athlete is scared to leave what they know, right? And so I feel good that I've made this decision in my life.
Who was your childhood hero?
My childhood hero. Oh boy, my mother. I have to be honest. It was my mother. She was everything to me. She was my best friend. She inspired me. And if I can even be an ounce of what she was as a woman, I'd be proud of myself.
What was your favorite, long or short program?
Short program. I hated that 4.5-minute program.
Is there one skater that you respected the most?
I think Scott Hamilton, the American skater. He struggled as a child. He had polio and he was in a wheelchair, and figure skating became therapy for him, like to start trying to move and everything. And then he became an Olympic champion. And he was such a versatile person that I have the highest respects for him.
What was the jump that made you the most nervous to perform?
Probably the one jump that I did that there wasn't another girl in the world doing, and that was the triple Lutz jump. And that was my big triple that I opened my program with. And when I would land that jump, I knew I was going to skate well. If I missed that jump, then I was like a basket of nerves, and then, felt like I had someone else's skates on. But that jump was so important because there wasn't another girl doing it at all that year in the competition. So it was only the men were doing that jump, and I pulled it off, and I knew as soon as I hit that jump, you could probably see the expressions on my face. I was like, yes, I knew I was on.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
So it's a jump that you go down completely backwards, you use the whole ice, and then you reach back and you go up and you do 3 revolutions and then land.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your favorite place to compete?
My favorite place to compete is a little town in Germany called Oberstdorf. And I was very, very lucky. I got to go back there 2 years ago with a skater as her coach. And it's this greatest little town. It's in the Alps, and it was beautiful. And the cows go through the town, to the pasture every morning. And then the cows come back through the town to their home. And it is just it's right out of a fairy tale storybook, this little town. It's beautiful.
Who was your toughest competitor?
I would probably, as far as the skating, it would have been the American girls. They were good skaters, but as far as popularity, it was Katarina Witt. She didn't have, she only had 2 triples. I had 5. She wasn't technically, a huge competition for me, but publicly and media wise and everything, she was the star, right? So it was hard to beat that part of it, right? I'm like 4 foot nothing, right? It's like
Are you still a big fan of the Olympics and figure skating in particular?
I am. I've actually gotten to commentate for 4 Winter Olympics. I commentated with NBC in Salt Lake City and Torino, and then I was part of the CTV commentating group in Vancouver, and then in Sochi I did blogs for CBC. Yeah.
Wow. Is there one performance you would like to skate all over again, either because you would like to change the outcome or because you would want to relive it?
The World Championships in 1987, you weren't even born,
Yep.
was the World Championships prior to the Olympic year. And I arrived, it was in Cincinnati, and I arrived and I was absolutely textbook perfect on every single practice. And the media was going crazy saying, Canada's going to win a medal. There hadn't been a girl to win a medal since 1972, from Canada. And I went out for the free program and I completely fell apart, and I fell 7 times. And so I didn't make the podium, and that completely threw me for a loop, because it would have been so much better for me to be considered on the podium prior to an Olympics. And then I didn't do it. And that's one I wish I could get back. But this is where I became the real athlete, and I took it as a lesson, and I learned from it, and I understood what I needed to not do again. And so it ended up helping me in the process, but talk about embarrassing.
And finally, if you could share one piece of advice with our youth, what would that be?
To go after what you love and what you're passionate about, and don't let anybody tell you have to do this and do that sport or do this sport. Success comes from loving something and from passion. And we tend to listen to too many outside voices to tell us differently. And I think kids will lean towards taking the advice of others, but really if they love something, and it might not even be a sport, it could be anything, right? To trust in their instinct.
Right. And is there any advice for my goalie tryout today?
Is there any advice?
Yeah.
Don't get nervous. You know what?
Nervous.
Well, you know what? Nerves are good. Nerves are good. It's just keep them under control, right? Because nerves is adrenaline. So you want to be nervous. I shouldn't say that, but you want to be nervous, but you don't. My coach always said, butterflies are good in the stomach. Just make sure they're flying in formation and they're not crashing into each other. But you know what? You love it. Obviously, you're excited about it, and just do what you can do. And it's going to be what it is. If you don't make it, it's not the end of the world. Okay. There's going to be other tryouts and you can work on other things and stuff like that. Right. So, don't make it all about, I have to make this team, right? If you make it, fantastic. But if you don't let that get you down. Okay. Right. Because, the amount of times that I got no's and I wasn't asked to go to competitions, or I wasn't, it feels heavy, but let it inspire you to work harder.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on my podcast.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm so excited. And listen, if you do make the team, let's just say, tell your coach that I do power skating now, that I'd come out and do a class with your team.
Really?
Yes, you got my contact
awesome.
now. Yeah, I do that. I do that with a lot of teams. I was in Toronto for a few years and I worked with a bunch of hockey teams and your age. And, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a great 1 hour workout with me. So, and I'm on hockey skates and everything.
That's awesome.
So I'm just throwing it out there. If it's of interest to you, just, contact me. I'd love to come out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining my podcast.
No problem. And I hear your dad in the background.
Yeah, he's right there.
Hi, Dad.
Big fan, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you. All right. Anytime. You just stay in touch with me, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck. And you're a great role model, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wish virtual hug.